Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Dune Prophecy Episode 6 finale video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, and they have confirmed that it was renewed for Season 2, so a lot of the end of the episode is dedicated to setting up plot points in Season 2, particularly the show moving to Arrakis. They didn't completely wrap up all the big storylines, like who's really behind Desmond. They really just created some deeper mysteries to solve in Season 2, particularly with what's going on with all this other group and the thinking machines. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. The episode is extra long. It almost feels like this should have been like an 8-episode season, but at some point they cut the budget and then re-edited it down to 6 episodes, so we get like a 90-minute almost finale. Normally they would just do like a House of the Dragon and just do it as 8 episodes or 10 episodes. But the actual episode title was The High-Handed Enemy, which is a reference to the Gom Jabbar in Dune lore. Specifically, it's the poison-tipped needle that they wind up using later in the episode. All of the great houses eventually keep some form of one in case they need it. Being struck with its poison causes instant death. The Bene Gesserit eventually would use it to determine whether an individual's awareness was stronger than their instincts, like are you a human or are you an animal, as Reverend Mother Mohiam told Paul Atreides. That's usually what most people think of when they think of the Gom Jabbar, the test, putting his hand in the box. The actual test itself is meant to see if the awareness of the Gom Jabbar's presence, like the actual poison-tipped needle, was strong enough that it would override the person's instincts to withdraw from the test, like pull their hand out of the box, which usually involved them enduring great physical pain. The idea being that if the Bene Gesserit determined that Paul Atreides was more animal than man, they would have used the Gom Jabbar needle on him, instantly killing him. So this episode is kind of the origin of the Gom Jabbar. Generally, the series has been dedicated to showing you the backstory, the origin of a lot of the major groups and major tropes in the Dune universe. Like, that's the whole idea of doing a prequel series. The opening scene starts with an external view of Wallach 9 in its orbiting moons, I think to give you vibes of all the opening shots of the Dune movies when they show you Arrakis, to parallel the end of the episode where Sister Valia winds up landing on Arrakis. All because the show is moving to Arrakis in Season 2. There'll probably be other locations we'll visit, but I think we're trading a lot of Seleucus Secundus stuff that we did in Season 1 for a lot of Arrakis stuff, which I think is a much smarter move on their part. I think the idea of all this stuff that's happening on Arrakis, particularly this mystery group that's using a thinking machine against the Bene Gesserit using Desmond, is way more interesting than a lot of the stuff that was happening at the palace this season. Love all the palace intrigue stuff, but it just never quite hit Game of Thrones level palace intrigue. Tula hears her Harkonnen female ancestors' voices whispering to her. She's heard them in previous episodes many times. I think the idea is that all Reverend Mothers that have access to those hear them all the time, and they just suppress them with their force of will, as is the case with Lila, who isn't able to do that, and the voices overtake, the consciousness overtakes her mind, as Dorothea does in this episode. But this time, Tula's ancestors are yelling at her, judging her, because they know the truth that Desmond Hart is her son, and she should have stayed with him, like she was wrong to join Valia with the Bene Gesserit. That was kind of a funny bit earlier this season where, the Harkonnen ancestors, Valia also hears them too, it's the same ancestors because they're sisters. It seems like all these Harkonnen female ancestors absolutely can't stand Valia. They're always saying bad things about Valia. You were wrong to join her. They were also whispering to Valia earlier this season when she came to the Harkonnens in present day that she wasn't welcome with the family. But one of the major reveals has been, with Desmond Hart being her son, is that Tula is indirectly responsible for a lot of the problems that they're experiencing right now with him coming after the Order. But really, we find out that he's being finger puppeted by another mystery villain group who just put a thinking machine in his head. So really, it's the other villain group that's after them. The Empress seems like she might have some connection to this group because the Emperor teased that she had a lot of political connections that he did not have. And she just seems so bent against the Bene Gesserit that it would make sense that she fell in with some other order, but I don't think that she was meant to be that mystery person that Desmond saw in the flashback visions when the thinking machine got put inside his eye. That's probably a totally different person who's actually behind whoever this villain organization is. And it probably will be one of the big organizations from the Dune universe lore. There are many that they haven't completely introduced on the show yet, so it could still be a number of different groups. There are a bunch of flashbacks in the episode from a number of different characters who sort of closed their arcs this season and set up Season 2 arcs. This first flashback is of the events of Valia killing Dorothea with the voice, but from Tula's perspective, and then showing the rest of what happened right after that. Notice the women with her are young Kasha and Francesca. There are a couple other small details that I actually like they worked in here too, like when she's using the voice on Dorothea to tell her to kill herself, notice the ripples on the pool in the middle because it's a sonic ability, like a physical ability. The voice isn't meant to be magic. They reveal that Kasha and Valya are the ones who came up with the lie about what happened to Dorothea, and they are going to defeat the truthsayers by just causing themselves to believe the lie to confuse that truthsayer. That's all you have to do to defeat it. As long as someone believes the lie, they can't tell whether or not they're actually lying. Tula then throws up, not because she's disgusted with everything, but because she has morning sickness and she's pregnant, but she's not completely showing it up that all the other sisters would just immediately recognize that she's pregnant. So she tells Valya, and then Valya says that she will support her, but has this really sinister look on her face like, oh, we're going to raise that child together, like, oh, she is definitely going to turn that child into a weapon. Basically leading to Tula eventually betraying her by giving the child away, like helping the child escape from the Bene Gesserit. A lot of this is meant to dovetail with the whole themes of loyalty this season, like the sisterhood above all is the way that it's supposed to be, but at various times, Valya makes it seem like she's more loyal to House Harkonnen or loyal to Tula over the Order itself. Like she literally tells her in this moment, we can do whatever we want as soon as I'm Mother Superior. The rules don't matter. We can change the rules. But then later in the episode, this all builds up to Tula betraying her and then asking again for her to trust her. So it's a very complicated relationship that they have. Tula talks to Sister Nazir about the nightmare visions everyone's having, and knowing now that they're an evolution of the Omnius virus from the Machine Wars, a techno-organic virus created by the thinking machines, and Nazir's from the Imperial Suk School. That's why she has the diamond in her forehead, but she's loyal to the Bene Gesserit because she trained with them before she went to the Order. This is also meant to remind you that the Bene Gesserit have infiltrated all major groups across the universe and all aspects of society. They start to dig more into the actual techno-organic virus itself and the way that it works on people. They reveal that Kasha survived with it for several days, but they don't know exactly why the people at the Lost Straw died instantly, and it has something to do with the way that Desmond is in proximity to them and can activate the virus because of the thinking machine inside his eye, but also she says that Kasha was a master of Prana Bindu, which is the ability to control your nerves and muscles to an extreme degree, meaning that Kasha was able to control her body's functions at a molecular level way better than other members of the Order or like regular nobles like at the Lost Straw. Meaning that she was able to stave off the fear effect in like the fear center of her brain where the virus actually works, causing it to be less effective on her than it was on the people in the Landstrad. They also reveal the harder you try to fight it, like on a physical level, the faster it works on you. The only way to defeat it is to basically defeat your fears, which is meant to be set up for the whole fear mantra, like fear is the mind killer that you hear them referencing in the movies over and over again. There are a couple other lore dumps too. They reveal Kasha's family was slaughtered by Butlerians when she was a child. Butlerians are the ones who started the war against the thinking machines. They became House Corrino eventually, the first emperor, the grandfather of the current emperor, because we're talking a little over 100 years ago when this all happened. All of her talk about Kasha being able to face her fears, being good at mastering her fear, is the reason why she was able to suppress the techno-organic virus longer. Like I said, the whole idea here, them setting up the idea that fear is the mind killer, but it's also the literal killer in the case of this series. When they say Desmond is likely the virus's first victim, who did this to him, it's meant to be the person in the cloak at the end of the episode whose face we can't see, but is also using a thinking machine and uses that to implant it inside Desmond. What probably actually happened to Desmond is that instead of being eaten by a sandworm, that's probably a false memory that was implanted on him. Then this villain group just faked that footage so that other people also thought that they saw him being eaten by the worm. And while that was going on, what they were actually doing was just performing the surgery on him, changing his eye, putting the virus inside him. So the idea is that each time he's been using it and he grabs his head, you hear that ringing, he's actually been grabbing for his eye, like that's where the pain is coming from, the actual eye itself. And because Mommy wants to help her little boy, Tula wants to help Desmond, there's a little bit of setup for their relationship developing during season 2, like what that's going to be like because he has her arrested. I'll explain that later in the video when we get to that part, because Travis Fimmel talked very specifically about why Desmond did a couple of the things that he did. But their whole idea here to fight the virus is to transmute it inside their bodies the way they do with the Rossak poison, also in effect creating an antiviral, creating a medicine they can use on many people to cure them, to rendering the virus basically useless to whoever this villain group is. The way they talk about it too, it's not contagious the way that normal viruses are. So like Desmond has to breathe it, like breathe the nanobots onto someone else, but then after he kills that person, they can't infect someone else. Like he has to infect someone else himself. Like he has to walk off and give it to someone else. Which also leads to the suggestion that as some of them have in the episode, particularly Anirul, their own thinking machine saying, why don't you just kill him? That's the easy way to get rid of the problem. Just kill him. Which of course Tula does not want to do. Like, no, he's my baby boy. I'm not going to kill my son. Mommy's special boy. We get a better look at what the actual techno-organic virus looks like. Nazir says her doctor's training, the Imperial Academy, makes her way more qualified to try and transmute it into something that's more inert. But she's not able to, and it winds up roasting her like Christmas dinner. R.I.P. While she's being burned alive, she mentions the monster of Arrakis. This is probably both the sandworm that everyone's seeing in the visions, but also Desmond Hart himself and the mystery villain person who's really behind what happened to Desmond with the thinking machine. Like, that's the real monster of Arrakis. Like I said, whoever this villain group is, whoever responsible for doing this to Desmond, is probably on Arrakis. That's why Valia went to Arrakis at the end of the episode to find out who this person is. She cries out it's not human, also sees the blue eyes too, which we find out later is the actual blue of the thinking machine as it's changing his eye, because the machinery in his eye is literally blue, like it glows blue. Back at the palace, Desmond interrogates Kieran Atreides, trying to get him to reveal the connection between the Bene Gesserit and the rebels. When he says he'd never thought he'd see an Atreides doing Harkonnen's dirty work, the irony is that he is also Harkonnen too. Tells Desmond the story about his mother without him realizing it, remembering Kieran's father is Oscar Tully from the flashbacks who Tula spared. The whole comp to her being a monster living amongst their people also feels like the thinking machine hiding amongst the Fremen, maybe waiting to infect Desmond, like this monster of Arrakis waiting to change Desmond with the thinking machine. He refuses to testify against the Harkonnens at the Lost Rod because of their blood feud. Also, I think for plot reasons too, like they don't want to hold Tula to task, but we'll probably get that out in season 2. Like she'll probably reveal what she did to the Harkonnens to Desmond when he's interrogating her at the beginning of season 2. Like, oh yeah, I killed all those Atreides. Your father was one of them. And because her fiancé was the next in line to become the next Duke, that also makes Desmond next in line to become the next Atreides Duke. But obviously the family, the Atreides in present day, wouldn't have any of that. They're like, hell no, he's not going to inherit anything. Oscar Tully isn't going to hear any of that. It sounds like he's still alive too, he's just a much older person now. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see more of the Atreides house in present day during season 2. The princess tries to rescue him until the Empress finds her and arrests her. She's not going to kill her own daughter. The whole idea here is that she basically either imprison her for life until she agreed to do whatever the Empress told her to do, or she would just send her off-world to like the edge of the Empire, exiling her effectively. Remember though, the Empress also kind of hates Constantine because of Francesca, like she really hates Francesca, so it's not like she wants Constantine to inherit the throne either. So either she tried to have another child with the Emperor and then put that child on the throne, or maybe just hope that she could bend the princess to her will long term. I think that was her initial plan here. Also because she didn't want to kill the Emperor either, she just wanted the Emperor to become her finger puppet. There are a couple funny moments with this whole Francesca Emperor storyline too, where he's like, you know what, let's come out of the open. I think we're ready to put this behind us. You come live with me full time now. And he wants to send the Empress off on like a tour of the universe so that she won't be around the palace all the time and he can just sex it up with Francesca 24/7. Within the Dune universe, nobles having concubines like this is actually a very widely accepted practice, but I think this is still meant to be relatively early days, so it's still a little bit scandalous. Like, people know that Constantine is the son of Francesca, but I think it's not as acceptable for her, especially in the Empress's eyes, for Francesca to actually live at the palace with them. In the future of the Dune universe, like during the movies, it's way less of a scandalous thing though. One of the other funny twists in this is that Valia was surprised by the Emperor's decision, like, oh, wow, you want to get rid of the Empress and bring the Bene Gesserit back to the palace. That's great. The only problem with this is that she wants to get rid of the Emperor and she wants to put the princess on the throne. She says she feels like the Emperor actively trying to divorce the Empress would just completely destabilize the Empire, and the only way around this is to kill him and put the princess on the throne. We get a bunch more flashbacks to what happened to Valia and Tula and the others when they first learned about the thinking machine and learned about her coming son. They set up the idea that they used the thinking machine to develop the plan to marry the Emperor to the Empress so that they could wind up getting the princess out of it. This is also meant to set up the idea that Tula doesn't want Value to also gaslight her future son when he comes along, the way that they plan to gaslight the princess. She doesn't want her son, Desmond, to become a weapon, which ironically went completely sideways, like he wound up being a weapon anyway, just someone else's weapon. They set up the idea that the young Francesca is going to keep the Emperor busy until the Empress is old enough to marry and bear the princess. Then the Dorothea loyalist overhears the other sisters talking about Tula taking off without telling them why, helping to set up the whole Lila-Dorothea plot in the episode, with her taking control of the Order on Wallach 9. They reveal Lila has been taken over by Dorothea's consciousness again, who disables Jess to escape and then hijacks this group and starts to tell them the truth about what happened. Like, these women are loyal to Dorothea, but only because they found her writings after the fact. Later we see Dorothea revealing that Valia killed her loyalists and just dumped their bones in the pool at the center, which seems like a misstep on Valia's part. Like, definitely not the way to get rid of a body. Don't you listen to any true crime podcasts. Should have definitely thrown those bones in an incinerator or something like that. Back at the palace, Desmond tells the Emperor why the Empress arrested the princess, explains his plan to send the Empress on a goodwill tour, like I said, all just a ruse to be able to spend more time with Francesca, just sexing it up all the time. There are a couple lore dumps and setups for Season 2 that they also seed during this conversation too. They keep mentioning the neo-allied worlds of the Imperium. The whole idea is that not every single planet in the known universe, 100 years after the Machine Wars, is totally loyal to the Empire. And one of the ways that they brought those into the control of the Empire was through the help of the Empress early on. Like, she has the contacts in that extended part of the Empire, the unallied worlds, that brought them into the Empire when she married the Emperor. So it's just teasing the idea that there's a lot of worlds, a lot of people, groups out there in the Dune universe that are powerful that we'll probably meet in more future seasons of the show. One of the other ironic things here too is that Desmond isn't wrong when he's talking about the sisterhood in a bad way, like they're behind the rebellion, they're trying to kill you, they're pulling strings. Valia basically outright tells him this later in the episode. You have been our puppet your whole life. We orchestrated your creation, like you exist because we wanted you to exist. This whole scene of Jess escaping the bonds using her training is actually something that people do in present day all the time, like basically breaking their thumbs to escape cuffs. It's extremely, extremely painful. I would not recommend trying it. Dorothea also references the Mentat sisters. I think this is actually the first time on the show they've referenced the Mentats. They're basically like human computers in the Dune universe that wind up replacing a lot of the functions of thinking machines. Of course, it makes sense that the Bene Gesserit would have also infiltrated the Mentats order and had a bunch of their own Mentats they could use within the order to their own ends. She learns, though, that Valia erased all the records of Dorothea's followers, basically tried to wipe any record of their existence. There are a couple more reveals here with the face dancer, too. Had a lot of questions about the face dancer. So Valia says she's going to get herself arrested to get into proximity with the princess and rescue her with the face dancer. But she reveals then that the Talaxan geneticist, I'm probably mispronouncing Talaxan, but there are like 6 different ways that it's pronounced in the books and the audiobooks and all the different places. So you can just pick one and use whichever one you want. The producers explained that she's supposed to be a prototype for the modern face dancers in the Dune universe, like not a full face dancer as you see them later during the events of the movies and like the miniseries, but close to that. Valia also wants Francesca to be the one to use the Gom Jabbar on the Emperor, killing him. Back at the palace, the Empress tries to turn the tables on the Emperor using Desmond and his ability to threaten him into submission so that he'll just become her finger puppet. I keep thinking that the Empress is somehow tied to the group that changed him and put the thinking machine inside him, but not her herself. Like, she isn't meant to be that mystery person in the cloak at the end of the episode on Arrakis. Valia makes her big reveal to the Emperor that his whole life has been a lie. They've been orchestrating it, pulling the strings this whole time. I love the way that he walks into, like, she's doing this, telling him all these things about himself while sitting on the throne, basically doing like all the things she could possibly do to get arrested. That's the whole idea, like she's trying to get arrested on purpose. There are a couple more flashbacks to show how Valia and the others killed all Dorothea's followers. They also reveal here that the voice is a very singular, one person at a time kind of thing, like it's not area of effect kind of ability. So each of them that Valia taught how to use the voice have to go around one at a time, telling each of the people to choose, and if they choose wrongly, kill themselves. They reveal the younger version of Avila survived because she promised to be quiet about what happened. She's the person in present day that kept yelling at Tula. Then the Emperor has it out with Francesca, and basically what they're revealing here is that Francesca doesn't really want to do Valia's bidding. She actually does care about the Emperor, cares about their son. But part of the idea is the Emperor's reality is so shaken, like he feels like nothing he's ever done, no decision he's ever made, no action he's ever taken has ever truly been his own, and the only way for him to assert some sort of actual control over his own life is to take it himself. That's why he winds up killing himself, because it's like his first true action that he did of his own accord. One of the other reasons why they killed the Emperor off in Season 1, Sean Bean style, like we're talking Game of Thrones, old school HBO ways, is also because Mark Strong, been on a ton of other HBO series, like I just did Penguin episodes, he's part of that, but he's also up for the role of the new Dumbledore in the Harry Potter reboot show, which is going to run for like 7 years. So I think HBO behind the scenes are like, you know what, could you kill this character off so we could potentially use him on this other HBO show that we're also doing at the network? So RIP, press F to pay respects to the Emperor. He was not a good Emperor, like he was a very, very weak person. Then the Empress uses the Gom Jabbar to kill Francesca and also tries to lie about it and make it seem like they both killed each other. So essentially heading into Season 2, the Empress now has full control of the royal court and the Landsraad. Valia arrives to free the princess, then revealing the face dancer is going to impersonate her and try to trick Desmond and kill him, staying behind to sacrifice herself. They also save Kieran Atreides and then escape. The face dancer fails to kill Desmond, but also they reveal that the face dancer is still alive and will probably be a big character during Season 2. That's why Desmond tells the others to put her in one of the suspension cells. There are a couple big deaths this episode, but surprisingly, a lot of major characters survived to Season 2. Dorothea then takes everyone down to the thinking machine to try and destroy it. The way the producers talk about it, she's supposed to be successful in destroying Anirul, but I don't know if it's perma-destroyed because we know the Bene Gesserit breeding plan lasted for like the next 10,000 years successfully, so either they find a workaround like they use their mentats to monitor and develop the program, or they find a way to repair Anirul. My assumption is that on the show, they're teasing like right now, this soon after the Machine Wars, there are still major groups using thinking machines, like this other evil group that's behind what happened to Desmond was also using a thinking machine to do that. But by the end of the show's run, like however many seasons it goes, they'll have destroyed all those thinking machines so that by the time we get to the events of the movies 10,000 years in the future, there are none of these big thinking machines anymore. That would mean the Bene Gesserit find some workaround way to continue to monitor and evolve their breeding program. Mentats would be like the easy way to do that. Then they reveal in the past, young Tula conspires with Francesca to give Desmond away to the midwife so he won't grow up as a weapon, meaning that Francesca knew the truth about the baby this whole time, but didn't know that it was going to be Desmond, like she didn't know older Desmond was Tula's son. They lied to Valia, telling her that the baby died, and the one that she has here, she's going to pretend is the dead one, but I think it's the midwife's dead baby boy. There was a brief teaser for Harrow Harkonnen and like the Harkonnen storyline in Season 2, but it was kind of like off by itself here. They reveal the rock that Desmond gave to Harrow was actually a recording device which recorded Valia's conversation with the sisters containing their plans to kill the Emperor and put the princess on the throne, basically their whole conspiracy. My assumption is that Harrow's evil smile here is meant to foreshadow him throwing Valia under the bus and the sisters, revealing all this to the Empress and hoping that it will curry more favor with her, and that's how the Harkonnens get Gady Prime. Right after this too, we also get a nice shot of the outer edges of the city with the port. It has a lot of vibes of Gady Prime, very mechanized looking. A lot of the color scheme also reminded me of the color scheme from the David Lynch Dune movies on Gady Prime. The Highliner that Valia says they're trying to get to is that larger Guild Navigator ship. She stays behind to stop Desmond, using the voice on all of his forces, just showing you she does have some skills, like very, very handy in a fight. But remember, the voice doesn't work on him. She tries to get him by baiting him to using the actual techno-organic virus on her, like show me my end is what she means. She starts to have the same nightmare visions again, and the whole idea here, they explain, is that she's meant to face her greatest fear, that she's responsible for her brother's death, and responsible for all the bad things that happened to their family. Basically replaying the events of the day that she saved her brother using the voice for the first time in the ice that she spoke about earlier this season. Notice Tula shows up, and it's her ancestors guiding her to Valia with their voices like, find your sister, she's over here. Tula then talks Valia out of it and helps her deal with her fear. Like, that's the whole way she explains. Like, you have to conquer your fears. You can't physically fight the virus inside you. You have to transmute it the way we do with the Rossak poison. So I think the idea here, the fact that Valia did do that creating an antiviral. It basically creates a weapon against that techno-organic virus, rendering it relatively useless during Season 2. So it's not like Desmond can walk around using the same weapon the same way across Season 2. While this is going on, Kieran and the princess have their own fight scene with a whole bunch of guards. It's just to remind you that she does have some fighting skills because they're headed to Arrakis, probably going to do a whole bunch of fighting against, probably early theory, the Fremen. Why would you take them to Arrakis, then not give them a bunch of fight scenes with the Fremen at first? There are a couple of things that Valia also says while this is all happening. She says, the worm is coming. That's both meant to represent the Shai-Hulud, the great sandworm, the eventual coming of Paul Atreides, Leto II, like foreshadowing bigger things later on, but it's also metaphorically meant to be her fear. With them finally revealing the blue eyes to be the blue nanobites in the lab, modifying Desmond's eye with the thinking machines. This is why I say the whole memory about him being eaten by the sandworm was probably a fake memory implanted by this person, and then the recording was also probably faked after that too. The really hot light behind him makes it seem like the sun, makes it seem like this is happening on Arrakis, so like whoever that person is, they're on Arrakis, and that's why Valia went there at the end of the episode. Meaning that the real big villain battle of the season will probably take place on Arrakis in Season 2 at the finale. So part of the irony of the season, the big reveals, is that both the Bene Gesserit and this other mystery villain group have both been using thinking machines in secret since the Machine Wars. Tula then stops her from killing Desmond to completely destroy the virus, wanting to spare her son's life, revealing the truth to her that this is the baby that she lied about. Meant to be a huge betrayal, like sister against sister. Not clear what this means for them in Season 2, but the way they play it, they kind of make up, like, okay, we will trust each other and just kind of do our own thing. We'll go our separate ways, but we're still sisters. So part of the idea is that Valia is leaving to go to find who this mystery person behind the thinking machine actually is, their true villain they need to stop, and Tula is going to try and stay and deal with Desmond, reunite with her son more fully. When Valia says the hidden hand grasping for control is going to be the Season 2 villain, the hidden hand was also the title of Episode 1 from this season. When she says the reckoning is still upon them, that's the eventual coming of Paul Atreides, Leto II, but also teasing the major Season 2 battle as well too, like short term. Desmond then recognizes Tula as his mother. She doesn't have to speak it out loud. Maybe we'll get to see them team up a little bit in Season 2. Not totally clear, but he's still supposed to be working for the Empress at the Imperial Court. And the way that Travis Fimmel explained this next scene is that he has her arrested because he doesn't want her to be able to run away again. Like, he wants to keep her close. So it sounds like we're going to get a bunch of scenes of them at the beginning of Season 2 just going over old times like, this is what happened to me after you abandoned me. Desmond doing all the trauma dumping on Tula. Then we see the Guild Navigator ship folding space to arrive at Arrakis with the Princess, Kieran, and Valia, setting them up for Season 2. Like I said, most of Season 2 probably going to take place on Arrakis, which I feel like is a smart move for them to move the show to Arrakis. This shot of them arriving at the port too, walking out of the ship, is also meant to parallel Paul Atreides, the other Atreides at the beginning of the first Dune movie. It's the same place where they arrived. My assumption is they have at least like 4 seasons loosely planned, and by the end of that, they'll explore all the major main groups in the Dune universe, like Guild Navigators, the Mentats, Imperial Doctors, the Ixians, maybe even the Bene Talaxu, or at least the Talaxu just in general. More with the Face Dancers, and whoever this other villain group is, and obviously the Fremen. But there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the episode. If there's anything I didn't talk about or any Easter eggs you spotted that I didn't reference, just write them below in the comments. They didn't completely wrap up all the major storylines, like a lot of it was just setting up Season 2 stuff, but post all your theories about who's really behind this, like who is that mystery figure that they see in the visions modifying Desmond. There's a bunch of stuff happening this week and next week too. What if Season 2 episodes have started? My Episode 2 video will post next. Creature Commandos episodes are happening. I'm doing videos for Skeleton Crew, and there's a bunch of stuff coming up in January, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for all my new Superman trailer videos, and click here for all my Dune episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.